Okay, hello everyone. So, given my recent disaster on Elevate, I thought I wouldn't leave it there. I'll try and redeem myself by looking at a problem on this brilliant app. Again, this is one you can get in the Android store. Here we have science and engineering. So let's have a little look what we have before us. So, astonishing hues. So I'm rather familiar with James Clerk Maxwell and his Maxwell equations, very good scientist, one of my all-time favourites. So we have Scottish physicist James Clerk Maxwell devised the theory of electromagnetism in the 1850s. Today, whenever a heedless young physics student has to cram a semester's worth of vector calculus overnight in order to study for their upcoming electromagnetism exam, we have Maxwell to thank. But Maxwell also made serious contributions to our modern understanding of colour and worked hard to make the very first colour photographs. That's correct. In Maxwell's day, black and white photography was all the rage, but he wanted to capture the world in full colour. He started with multicoloured Scottish tartan, a symbol of his beloved homeland. In one experiment, Maxwell captured black and white photos of a tartan using red, green and blue filters that only let one colour of light through to the camera's film. Do we see tartan, red, green and blue? Having captured the red, green and blue components of the image on film, Maxwell transferred these images onto transparent slides and projected them using 3 different projectors. A red channel, a green channel and a blue channel, and we see that there. We also see here that the combination of these colours, the combination of these primary colours give rise to 3 secondary colours. Maxwell suspected that combining the red, green and blue images with 3 projectors would create a tricolour image. This alone would have been groundbreaking, as no technique to produce any colours in photographs existed at the time. Instead, Maxwell recreated every colour of the rainbow in his projection, not just the red, green and blue colours he was projecting. He knew that no violet wavelengths of light were passing through the red, green and blue filters, but somehow the image of the tartan still showed a violet in the pattern. And there we have an example of what he first produced back in 1861, along with Thomas Sutton. Today's problem, so what have we got here? How can a tricolour projected image show the colour violet without projecting any violet light? There's the example there. So our 3 options are as follows. Make sure I'm recording. It says violet has the highest energy of all colours of visible light. That's true, but doesn't actually explain why using these 3 colours to merging them together would actually do that. We have a combination of red and blue light is visually indistinguishable from violet light. Well, that's obvious. The tricolour filters must project a small amount of violet light. Okay, so we've already been told that the tricolour filters actually don't do that. That they're actually ejecting only 3 colours. We're getting the green and we're getting the blue and we're getting the red. Now what's happening is that these have wavelengths associated with them, but when these waves combine, you get interference patterns, and these interference patterns produce waves of higher frequency, which leads to a smaller wavelength, and that smaller wavelength then is the violet colour we perceive. So a combination of red and blue light is visually indistinguishable from violet light. That would have to be the answer. Let's check. And we are correct. And I said, and as I said, you can go on to explanations to see if that's all right. Let's see what they say. Our colour vision depends on 3 types of cone cells, each type having a different pigment. If the pigment is stimulated by light, it causes a nerve connected to the cone cell to fire. This signal is processed in the retina, conveyed through the optical nerve to the visual cortex of the back of our brain, and hence to other parts of the brain until a sensation of colour is perceived. What is important here is that each of the 3 pigments reacts with a different sensitivity to different wavelengths of light, and the perceived colour sensation ultimately depends on just 3 quantities. The extent to which each of the 3 types of cones in a small area of the retina is stimulated. So, if we have 3 monochromatic light sources at hand, each with wavelength close to the maximum sensitivity of a different pigment, just a bit further apart maybe, we can pretty much independently choose how much we stimulate each of the pigments. When these monochromatic light stimuli are given one by one, we experience them as a as a red, green and blue. Notice that sensitivities of green and red pigments are quite close to each other, so some of the retina processing may involve calculating differences. Monochromatic light of relative short wavelength of about 400 nanometers. Violet light is located at the left of the picture above. Left of the maximum sensitivity of the blue, this happens to stimulate mainly two of the pigments. The one maximum sensitivity close to blue, this is blue pigment. The pigment that is stimulated best by longer wavelengths. The red pigment happens to be the one sensitive near to the short wavelength of violet, more so than the green pigment, which is hardly stimulated in this case, stimulating mainly the one only blue and red pigments, and leaving out the green, would thus cause the same sensation as violet light, although the light is really different when analysed. So that was a little comment, an scientific explanation by KT that was voted highest. There he gives his little conclusion at the bottom. So basically, I think my explanation does it more credence. I think the idea that these two combinations produce an array of wavelengths that are shorter, one that is perceived as violet, is much more scientifically accurate than the idea that our cones have pigments that perceive the violet light. I mean, that kind of goes without saying, it's assumed in the question. So unfortunately, I hadn't actually submitted an answer, because I'm sure if I had, that would have been voted highest. Thank you for watching.